patient all the way through the execution. So they trust you to bring in those details. They trust that you're going to bring in just the right amount of items in the right proportions, in the right colors to bring everything together. And then you have the other type of client who doesn't trust you, who sometimes makes you want to pull your hair out. Maybe this is why my hair is so short now. I'm really not sure. It's like all these things, right? And whenever I have that type of client, sometimes I've just learned to either do one or two things. I'm just going to wait and shut up. And then you have to, it's very psychological. Sometimes if I know they're following me on Instagram, I will drop hints on IG. Like I will share spaces before the art and accessories went in versus after. Because sometimes people are control freaks like myself, so I understand it. And then the other aspect is some people don't understand or know the difference because they're not visual, so you are teaching them. So I just try to understand them and try to exude some sort of patience during the process.
That's very helpful. And I'm sure, Tina, you also have that challenge. How have you faced it?
It is also very difficult. I will say I ask a lot of maybe poking questions. I don't know what the right phrase is. But I always want to know why they're thinking something, right? Like, so why don't you want the accessories, or why did you say no to that chair? Because if you can't articulate why, then I can't help you. And so, and I know that that's frustrating. I realize that some of my clients don't like that I keep asking them questions, but like, I need to know, otherwise I can't design a space for you. So if you're coming to me for this sort of a look, a completed look, which I know on our previous call, Mark, we had said, if we don't have the accessories, it's not a completed home. So if you want this look that you see on Instagram or on my website, but you're resisting, I need to know why. And I think then I can start to help them and complete the home. Because if we just do the furniture and lighting and window treatments, it's just going to look flat. Sometimes I will just bring a couple things in to show them, like in one of the meetings.
Yeah.
You know, how we can, like a quick styling, some stuff that I have here, and I'll just bring it in. It might not be the right things, but it'll help make them understand what the things can do. But I think having the conversation really early on, like I said, first meeting, it helps let them know that this is what we will be doing. So how much do you want?
I love that. I feel like the power of why is so important. This is before my corporate life, and I want to say I was probably like 27 years old, and that was a long time ago, double digits, and I could get into that. And I had a manager who said it so eloquently. He said, there's a power of why. And if the person can't explain it easily, it means they don't understand it. So if you ask why 5 times, you're forcing them to think and to answer the question. So sometimes by Tina asking her client, like, why, she's forcing them to sometimes realize, you know what, I don't know, or I don't understand. And sometimes they need that self-realization. So I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it seems like a client can't visualize like you can, because you're the professionals, and helping them visualize it, even when it's staging for a photo shoot at the end, or bringing, like you said, Tina, bringing it in, helps them visualize, and then they say, oh, okay, now I get it. So first, I want to just say that you guys are both friends, which is kind of cool to have both of you here together, which is nice. But we have a maximalist versus a minimalist here, which I think is really interesting. Okay, I think a little bit of bleeds into, you guys have a little bit of each of that, I think. Okay, maybe Beth does not have any minimalist, but I think Tina can go a little bit the other way. But anyway, the question I want to ask you is, how do you know when the room's finished? Because there's this dynamic of maximalism and minimalism, which will, beg that question. So when do you know when it's finished? Tina, why don't we start with you?
It's hard because I am a minimalist, so I don't know that I can do maximal. We'll put it out there. Like, I am who I am. I don't know. Like, I know my strengths. I get scared of doing too much, which I think then helps the minimals. So I end up putting a bunch of stuff out and then I pare back significantly. And how do you know when it's done? It's also a feeling, right? Like when I look at it and it feels complete, and then my client comes in, sometimes they'll say too much or too little, and then we'll work on it together, right? Because you're the one that's living there. But every surface should have, not every surface, almost every surface should have something, right? It should feel decorated without, for me, feeling overdone. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does.
I agree. I think it's also a feeling. And it's funny because, yes, I always prefer maximalism, but I remember this years ago, I had a bachelor client and he was not a maximalist. So it was like putting myself on my own learning curve as well, because at the end of the day, I'm not designing for myself. I'm designing for what the client, whatever environment the client feels best in. So for him, it was like, okay, I know with tabletops, I need to be simple, but the wall is where we can bring all the drama. So I went with more like oversized art pieces because it was still impactful. Or he had, in his living room, he had this 17-foot ceiling with this fireplace. And I was like, this is the most boring loft thing I've ever seen in my life. So I was like, let's tile this thing all the way up the 17 feet. And it was beautiful. So it didn't feel quite like minimalism to me because there was still ample to look at. So that's why I agree with Tina. It's a feeling, like, you know, when you walk into a space and it feels complete. And whenever I'm approaching project completion, when I tell you I look like a crazy person, I stand at the entry, I stand at every corner, I sit at the main seating areas, and I'm like, does anything feel out of place? Do I feel great? Then I'm like, all right, I'm done. And it's like a weight has been lifted. It's actually almost like euphoric part of the process.
I agree. You have to look at everything from every corner.
Do you hear singing in the background?
You're not crazy.
Start to...
Yes.
Sorry, the computer does what it wants. I said I agree with you that you have to stand at every angle and just take it all in. So you're not crazy. That's normal.
That is interesting, though. I've never thought about that. That's a really good point.
Well, yeah, because there's sometimes dead space, or, you know, where you have balance, which obviously you both have are great, because everything we've seen so far, the rooms seem pretty balanced. But I'm really amazed to hear that you just know. So it's not like you go and you purchase a certain amount of accessories and that's that. It's more of a gut feeling and instinct. When you see the finished product and you have that balance and you've looked from every angle, you know that the room is complete.
Yeah, in fact, I was gonna say I over purchase and then I return.
And maybe Beth under purchases.
Funny enough, I over purchased, but I also had to learn, like, you always have to over purchase, because whatever you plan for is not necessarily what actually happens. So I may plan for this. I'll use a recent example. Like, I was working in a client's home. We were in the dining area. I was there with the electrician. I was like, I want the sconce here and here, because it's going to sit in the sideboard. I'm going to use 48-inch mirror. The wallpaper is going to go in, and blah, 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 blah. And then he comes back. He's like, oh, the stud's in the way. And I was like, those studs always screw me over. So it's fine. I said, so I came with a plan B. So if you have to move this, we're going to do this. I'm going to change this mirror to that. Then we're going to change the wallpaper to this. So you always have to have a backup plan. And when you are finalizing the space, just because you think something may necessarily look amazing, especially for us who are visual, like, I can see it, but I look in the space and I'm just like, ooh, Beth, you were so wrong. This looks terrible. See what else I have that I love that I also thought could work in this space. So over purchasing is always like the way to go. It's always to be overly prepared.
That's great. I think great information for our guests.
Really good.
So are there, this question is also for both of you, are there specific decor pieces that you like to make sure that are included in every project? Like, do you have your favorites, signature accessories or staples that you always include?
Ooh, I won't say that I have the same accessory that I like to include. There are certain vases that you may see across a couple of projects because I'm just like, you're so fabulous, you have to be multiple places. But I do have, when I'm looking for certain accessory and decor items, I have particular vendors, like I know I'm gonna go there because I know you're gonna have what I want. Either I want this color, I want this level of funk, I want this feeling of eclecticism, I want something shapely. Like you know which vendor is providing you with what. And this is a great example. This is that that 17-foot fireplace that I was talking about that was so drab before.
Is that tile?
It is. Ooh, yes. It's this tile that everyone touches because at first glance you don't know it's tile, but it's actually kintsugi inspired, which is like it looks like burnished wood. But kintsugi is like this Japanese philosophy that even if something's broken, it's more beautiful once it's fixed. And then you do a gold or silver inlay. And I just love what it's good for based on my bachelor client. Because this was a home that he had owned for double digits. He had, been married, been divorced. And I was just like, there's nothing wrong with the home. We're just making it more beautiful. We're just making those adjustments. So this became the inspiration for the project. So I wanted to bring in brasses. I wanted to bring in Made Goods makes this beautiful wood. You see that on the second shelf. I forget the name of the wood. And I was like, we need this. I want gold. I saw the food dogs. I curated from multiple places. And once everything went into place, I was just like, does this feel right? Do I have to make them get back on the ladder? No, I think we're okay.
And as we were looking at this picture, we also we went right to the elephant, I think, on the lower left. Can you talk about that?
So it's so funny because what I try to do whenever I complete a space, I always leave an elephant with the trunk.
Okay, so that's your signature piece.
It's my signature piece. The only time I'm unable to do it if my client happens to be an AKA, the sorority, because they don't do the elephant. So I've had to incorporate other things that gave that same notion, because the reason why I'm leaving the elephant with the trunk up is because I'm leaving you with good luck. And like continued blessings in your home and like that good energy. And that's why I always leave an elephant somewhere. And if I can't, then I'm finding that other method, something special then to the client that gives that same type of energy.
That's cool. I love that.
How about you, Tina? Is there any staple? And it doesn't have to be a specific item. Maybe it's a category that you incorporate into all of your designs.
I love the elephant idea, by the way. That's amazing. I don't have a specific item, but I think, like Beth said, there are vendors that are my go-tos for certain things. If we're going for a certain look or certain sizes, sometimes you can't have sizes. Like for this room in particular, it's a lacquered tray. We have to get our lacquered trays custom made because I don't like the typical small trays, right? Like for me, I want to be able to put multiple things in the tray. I want it to take up enough space. So we always have our lacquer trays custom made. I think every home needs a tray. Every home needs, a vase for greenery. You always need art books or, picture books, things like that. I think that there are definitely basics that you need, but what they are in every home definitely changes.
I'm with you on the trays.
Yeah.
I am too. I love a good tray. I have a lot of them.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, and speaking of trays, it kind of dovetails into the next point, which is nightstands and how important they are in bedroom spaces. So for me, in my category, that's an important part of what the bedroom is about, the nightstand. So is there an essential piece of decor that you always like to see when you're styling a nightstand, again, it kind of talks back to the question Leanne just asked. Are there certain things that you always like to put in? Does it depend on the client? And also, sometimes these things are form and function. So how important is it to be functional as well?
Well, Beth, go. Beth, you go.
For me, it depends on the client. My question is like, what's on your nightstand right now? And what do you wish was there? Because everyone's different. Like some people, the smart people don't like to work from bed. I do. So I know on my nightstand, I need a space for my laptop, a phone, my iWatch, a book, and some pretty things, and a pen and paper. So I need drawers. And I need a wide enough nightstand to do that. But with this specific client, like this was a nightstand that they already had. They loved it. I think it was something that got passed down, so they wanted to keep it. So I was like, well, we'll keep it simple. If you don't want all the stuff that I bring to bed, for instance, that's fine. You need that one simple drawer, and you need some light. I feel like you need light, like whether it's a sconce or a table lamp. For me, that's something I'm always assuming that's going to be there, and everything else is just zhuzh based on what they need.
I mean, I completely agree with that. It's just I think that less is more, obviously. The water glass for me, you know, you're always going to be drinking water in bed, or I am because I get thirsty. There's always a little tray or like a bowl for your jewelry, or your watch, or your phone. But other than that, it's what the client wants. So if they want flowers near their bed and they change them often, then that's what goes there. You know, if they really only want their phone and their watch, then that's it. You know, we'll maybe put something decorative on there, but if they're not going to live with it, if they're going to remove it as soon as I leave, then I'm not putting it there.
So what I'm hearing from your answers is that it's all about the questions again, and incorporating the appropriate decorative objects and accessories into the space based on what their needs are, which is, I think, really good for us to hear. Beth, this question is specific. Actually, this is specific to both of you. I know we touched a little bit on budgeting for accessories. So when you have that initial conversation with the customer, is it a fixed figure of the percentage of the total, or is it dependent on the scope of the job? Help all the guests who are watching too, if they're not comfortable with using objects and decorative accessories, what does the conversation look like with your customer from a budget standpoint?
I still use my finance brain with this because I use something called a kitty.
A kitty? Okay.
A kitty. So a kitty is my hidden bucket of money. And this is something I always did in my corporate life. So let's say a client's budget is $100,000. They expect that most of that may be on labor, contractor, furniture. But if I show them that I'm going to spend like, $20,000 on art and decor, they may think that, I don't know, I've lost my mind, because they don't understand the importance of it. So I add in a kitty. So I show a small line that says art and decor, but I do that by room. So I'm breaking it up by room. And if I still think, like, based on previous conversations with the client, they still think that is too much, then I may overstate certain lines, or I'm putting a bigger calculation in my shipping and delivery, assuming that, it's going to be roughly 15% of the total budget is likely going to be shipping. So I'm adding that in there. And as actual shipping comes in, I'm moving it out of that shipping and delivery line and into my art and decor line. So my kitty is like moving around, and that's all the kitty is. And this is why I was meant to be in corporate finance before I was in.
You're a sandbagger, basically. I get it.
You got to do what you got to do. But it always works. It always works out at the end, because once everything is in place, and then they see the final budget, they never debate it. They're like, oh, I see why. Or once we get to that art and decor phase and they really want that piece of art, I'm like, if you love it, let's spend on it. And here's why. Let's talk about those art investments. Or let's talk about those decor investments. Like, is there something that you're going to be passing down to someone? Is there something that you feel like may appreciate? Then let's do it. And let's do it big, and let's not be apologetic about it. So that's my advice. Stick a kitty in that budget.
Okay. How about for you?
I think I need some math lessons from Beth. I think that's my lesson for today. I tell people 20% for art and accessories. It's a number that I've come up with, you know, looking at past projects. It always ends up, of course, we can't put that to everything, right? Like you can splurge on art and you can go crazy, but like it's a general number to work with. And I tell them again from the very first meeting that like this, whatever your budget is, if it's 100,000, 20 is going to be in your art and accessories, but don't freak out because I'm going to get you there, you know? And there are things that we add in because we design as a whole and we present a room as a whole and we present the proposal as a whole. So sometimes I'll sneak the art and accessories in there so it doesn't feel like an afterthought, right? Because we are always thinking about it. And I know that Beth probably is too, right? Like we're always thinking about art placement and that custom tray and all that stuff. So since I'm already thinking about it, it's on my brain, I will put it in the proposal, a couple of the things. And then as things start to come in, they start to understand that it really is making the space complete. And then they're not resistant to my later percentage or, you know, whatever's left to do. But I'm interested in the kitty.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I've been talking to a lot of designers, and there's this different level of when they start talking about it, when they start thinking about it. I think you guys are both very into the accessories, so you don't let them sneak up on you, right? But there are a lot of people out there, and I'm sure some among our viewers today, that let that kind of thing sneak up on them. You know, so the question is, where do you get your accessories? Where do you source them? And then, you know, is it important for you to be able to run in last minute and grab some things like from a showroom that you're close to be able to buy them right off the floor, things like that? Where do you find your accessories? Let's start with you, Tina.
Yes, of course. We know I'm doing this from day one for the project, but it's definitely important for me to be able to run into a showroom because like I said, I'm planning for it, but I need to overbuy. And the day of installation or the week of installation, I would wake up in the middle of the night and be like, we don't have enough, or we're missing the key piece. You know, it's because it's a feeling, you know, when you're missing something. And for instance, Made Goods is, I don't want to say down the street, but a couple streets away. And I can run in and like take 50 things and, you know, put them in and then see how they look. And it's so important because you need to be able to capture that person and you can't just find it online. I think that a lot of people have forgotten, especially during COVID, that you need to see everything. So sizes don't make sense sometimes online. Like you'll buy a little box and it's tiny. You need to go and pick things up and move them around. And like Beth was saying, she had to make the guy get up on the ladder and move things around because you plan for it to go somewhere and it doesn't go. So having those showrooms that understand you and you understand them and you can run and pull, it's invaluable.
I totally agree with that. I'm the same way. I do love to take the trip to Made Goods. Even though I'm in New Jersey, it's not that far. And I'll explain to Mark or Sean like kind of what I'm looking for. So it's for me, and I also highly believe in high-low. I think it's because of like my own upbringing. Like if my mother knew how much I was spending on accessories, my God, she'd keel over again. So I always kind of like to balance it out. So I may, you know, spend $400 on a teeny tiny vase. But I may think that it's amazing, or like these amazing statues. So it's like I'm mixing made goods with arteriors, with sometimes like CB2 and or home goods. Like it's always that mix, because if I find something and it's amazing, even if it's not specifically for a project that I have, or I'm at that phase right now, I'm still going to bring it home, and it's going to go on my overstock because I know it's going somewhere.
Well, it's just, again, fascinating to hear about how you incorporate these decorative objects into your projects. Tina, this question's specific to you. Tell us how you incorporate existing collections of art, ceramics, books, or personal mementos into the space that you're designing.
Well, I think I'm just saying the same thing again and again. I feel bad. We talk about it in the beginning. Like, I ask them, what art and accessories are we keeping? Where have you been collecting all of these years? Or if you're not collecting, what do you want to be collecting, right? Because that's part of our job too, is to try and guide people that are starting new collections. But as we're planning for our art walls, I want to know what's really important to them that they already have, so it's not overlooked and it's not an afterthought. Yeah, so we're planning from the beginning.
So in this space right here, that are those ceramic pieces in this kitchen that you've designed, and there are collection from the owner?
Some of them were.
Yeah.
Some of them definitely were. And some of them we added to fill the space and make it look like a collection, you know? But even with the art, sometimes we look at the art, and although we love the piece, we need to reframe it to work with, you know, the home. So that's not something that we would forget about too. It's just like reupholstering a piece of furniture. If we're going to keep it, we have to make it work.
Right.
I love the way you use these pieces where normally people would stack plates and make it totally functional. It's just really beautiful.
The plates sometimes get messy looking.
Yeah, for sure. So Beth, you're a gallery wall person, and so am I. And offline, I'm going to show you mine sometime because I want you to critique it, because I love gallery walls. Are there, you know, tell us a little bit about it. And I'm going to, when you're done, I'm going to tell you a little bit, because I love the way it kind of goes down into the furniture. The whole wall is just beautiful. Are there different types of gallery walls? You know, I know you're mixing art, objects. Are there always frames? I see some that are frameless. Are there types where all the frames are the same? I mean, tell us a little bit about your strategy when you design a gallery wall.
It honestly depends on the client and the vibe of the project. If I'm designing for someone who's more of a free spirit, or is more eclectic, or is more boho, then I don't want any of the frames to match. So if we're doing a gallery wall with, let's say 25, I'll give a great example. I recently completed a client's gallery wall. This thing was like 27 feet wide with 9 feet ceiling. So we decided to mix family photos and art pieces and objects. But I'm like, all right, well, I want every family photo to be in a different type of frame. And I want the type of frame to complement the actual photo. Like, is it a new family photo? Is this like your grandparents? So we decided to mix. Obviously, that takes a lot longer to complete, but that's because that style worked. But if there's a client, for instance, using the same bachelor pad client, if I was doing a gallery wall for him, I wouldn't have taken that approach. I would probably be using thin black gallery frames, all maybe the same sizes. So it really depends on that vibe and the mood of the space, and that will dictate how I'm going to approach the gallery wall. Like, for instance, my gallery wall, I like everything funky. I don't like things to match. Sometimes I don't even like to match my clothes. That's just my personality. So I wanted to mix like canvas with vintage shields, with bands, with like, you know, limited prints. I wanted a mix of everything, because for me, art is like the thing for me in a space.
It looks like the furniture is part of the gallery wall too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes down though. Well, I'm pretty sure, like, if anyone's met me, you know that I am teeny tiny. So when I'm sitting on my sofa, like my head is not even touching anything, but like, 'cause I'm sure, and I honestly believe that design is selfish. I'm not designing for my guests. I'm designing for myself. But if I have a taller friend and he's like 6'2", he can't, if he wants to sit on the sofa, he has to like lean a little bit. And I'm like, you'll be all right. Let me pull up the stool or sit in the chair. Like, you're okay. You don't live here. So it's like those types of things. I go through this with every client. We're designing for you. We're not designing for your neighbor. We're not designing for your mother-in-law. We're designing for you. Let's start off with the selfish things, and then we can add in the things that should consider other people.
Cool.
And for you, Beth, I'm sorry, Tina, I am obsessed with bookshelves. I have several in my house and none of them look nearly as nice as what you're showing us here. I do feel like that accessorizing it well is a true art form. So can you tell us about this bookshelf and the strategy involved?
This is actually one of my favorite bookshelves too. I have my own behind me and it's not as cool, so we'll just put it out there. But for this one, it was a show house that actually we installed it right before shutdown. So a lot of people didn't get to see it in person. We had this bookshelf wall custom made for the space. It was master suite, and the bed system was from Heston's, the mattress company. And when I was at the showroom, I saw these gorgeous pink books that they had, displaying their work, and they were like art books. And so I said to them, I love this. I want this like pop of pink, and I want like 200. So they sent me 200 of them. And I just knew, because I knew that in order for me to stylize a bookcase in a modern way that doesn't feel overdone for me, for what I want to do, I need some sort of consistency, right? Like I need some sort of anchor that can be carried throughout the bookcases or the shelves. And so this beautiful book was it. And it helped show off the brand, and it helped then display the accessories, which are all from Made Goods, because the accessories can shine without feeling crowded, right? Because you have the same thing going across, and then you're not really looking at the books anymore. They're just a pop of color. So again, it's the feeling, but I did have the intent, right? Like I had thought about what I want this to look like. I had done a couple hand sketches. And then when you're there, everything just falls into place because you start moving things around until it feels like it's the right thing.
So again, is a lot of that outside of the repetition and knowing that you wanted to use those books and you do some sketches, but mostly is it done on site?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And when I'm in the showroom, I'm just pulling things that I like, and I'm trying to see, obviously I have the heights of the shelves. You're like, okay, it's going to fit, like we knew that art piece was going in there specifically in one of the shelves, maybe not that one. But you're pulling things that you like and that go with the space, and then you're moving them around. I don't know. That doesn't sound professional, but that's what it is.
No, it does. I think
No, it does. It sounds very
obviously a strategy involved, and you're sharing strategy with us.
I mean, it's a lot like photography, right? Photographers take just a ton of pictures and then they edit back from what they've got. And I hear that theme from you guys a lot during this discussion. It's really interesting. So Beth, I manage Pigeon and Poodle, which is a lot of bath accessories. It's a primarily bath accessories. We do other finishing touches, but we've got a lot of bath. And I would love to hear your take on current bath trends, what you like to see in the bathroom, and any insights that you have about accessorizing a bathroom.
I can honestly say, which is probably not going to be surprising, I like to see color.
Color, yeah.
And my recent obsession with, and I would never consider myself like a girly girl, but I'm recently obsessed with pink bathrooms, like with pink tile. And I just love it. And I love seeing how we're seeing more of that, like more of the colored tile, but without feeling like, I'm sort of like bathrooms from the 70s. We look back at now like, oh my God, who thought this was great? But I think it could be done and still feel classic, because it's really about the shade of pink. It's about that shade of green. I still think it could be done beautifully. And I think accessorizing and having ample storage is really key. And I think the biggest key is making sure that your storage itself even looks like decoration. Like that stool, that's for towels or someplace to sit, just not for decoration. It's someone to toss whatever. So I think it's really being mindful, because I think even though form follows function, it doesn't mean that function can't still look amazing and on the cover of a magazine.
Right. It's a small space, so a lot of it has to work, right?
Right, absolutely.
Well, just even the texture, I love that, you know, bathrooms can be sleeker, and that you've really grounded the space with the objects that you've used.
Thank you.
So you were both kind enough to submit some before and after pictures of 2 bedrooms that you designed, and yes, there's
Yeah.
there's
Who's there? Here we go.
Yes, that's the before, and Beth's after shot looks like way different. Can you just tell us about how these spaces were transformed, again, specifically with the finishing touches? Like, I see those records on the wall. I don't know, are they, you know, the statues that you used, the bench? It really, I think, adds the personality to the space outside of the, you know, the actual furniture as anchors. So we just wanted to hear about that.
So this specific client was heavily into music. I mean, like, he plays the drums, he plays the piano. He has like other instruments in his house. Like, he has like kind of like a office / music room where he actually like records music. So I thought it was important to try to incorporate that feeling through other parts of his home. And I thought the bedroom was a great place. So I just loved these brass and gold, brass and black record holders that could either hold like the record itself or just like the album cover. So I was like, you know what? Let me go find musicians that he's mentioned that he loves, both new and old. And then I literally went and then I just opened up all the album covers and see what the actual record looked like. Like, oh, I love this red, or I love this yellow, or oh, I forget what the color, because Prince's album is also on this wall. And it's like, I was pulling it by color based off musicians that he loved. And I was like, this is it. We're going to frame it. And again, because he's more of a minimalist, I was like, I'm going to keep all his tabletops simple, because I know him and he has gadgets and they need places to be plopped down. So I was like, it's fine. We'll keep it simple. I'm going to do this brass thing here. I included the bench because I know he was also the type of person who works a lot of hours. So I was like, I'm going to give you a place to just throw your stuff. I don't want to give you this bench for it to sit there forever, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. So it was like those types of things. So it was trying to make it personalized, but functional and beautiful. And paint was probably the thing that I probably spent the most time on, making sure that what the vision was, that I pulled in a color that was moody, not too dark, not too light. And then I fell in love. This was called Dark Water. And I just thought it was perfect for this space. And I felt like it just came together beautifully.
I want to quick ask you about the wall opposite the bed. It reminds me a little bit of your gallery wall, where you're actually with furniture, you're like using the whole wall. Is that something you like to do? Because I think a lot of times people would just be a little bit more cautious about, you know, filling that whole space, maybe putting a chair there, but you're using the whole wall.
I do not like large white spaces in general. So for this specific wall, there's like a break from the wall that's perpendicular to it, and then there's the bench, and then there's another small break, and then there's the dresser, and then there's the rest of the wall that leads to the entry. So I gave him breaks of space, but if I was not able to create those breaks, then I knew I couldn't go with the bench. I would try to probably pull in more like a club chair, and actually next to this nightstand where the gold monkey is, there's actually a tall wingback chair for him just to sit down, plop, and just watch TV on his brand new TV. So it was like all trying to mix in the things that I thought he would want versus the things that I don't even think he knows that he needs it. But when you watch your client move and like how they like to function, you realize like you're not living how you actually want to live, because I see you want to sit, but you don't have anywhere to sit. So it's like those types of things. It's like kind of, I don't want to say stalking your client, but like stalking your client. You're kind of watching their every move.
Interesting.
And in Tina's space, this is a huge transformation as well. Yeah, a lot more serene. So, it's definitely an example of soulful minimalism. So tell us about the importance of the accessories that you've included.
Yeah, this was actually our bedroom from our previous apartment. We purchased a apartment that needed a full gut renovation. So what you don't see here is we also altered the actual space. We carved out closets, and the whole apartment was just transformed. But I was inspired by the light shade of blue in the previous bedroom. This woman had lived here for so long and she clearly had an amazing life. It just needed a fresher color of blue, right? It was a little bit drab and she just had too much stuff for me. So we really, we did the blackout. It goes wall to wall. So the room feels even bigger, even though we like closed it in a little bit. We lifted the lamp to become a sconce. So I have space on the nightstand for the computer I'm not supposed to have in bed, like Beth said. And I don't have a lot of stuff really on my nightstand. It's like I said, it's gadgets and water and the computer that I'm not supposed to have. So it's basically clear. And then for me, the art was the star, because I really minimized the rest of it so that I could feel relaxed and serene and just kind of at home. I know it is my home, but at home at the end of the day, I wanted a cocooning environment without becoming dark. So I didn't want to fill it with too much stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, this has been great, you guys. And I think we have, Leanne, did you want to say something else?
No, I think we want to hear from our guests.
We have a couple of questions. I have a couple of questions for you guys. The first one is a really fun question for both of you. Is there a project that you have yet to do? Is there something out there that you just hoping comes your way, or something that you're just really excited about doing that you haven't done yet?
I want to do a yacht. I'm putting it out there into the universe. I want to do a yacht. I don't know, does anyone have a yacht they want me to design? I'm here for you.
I'd like a ride on that yacht when you're done with it.
I'll take you.
Okay.
I would say for me, I have a number 1 and a number 2. So number 1, I'm dying to get my hands on a boutique hotel. Because one that would enable me to make every room different, and each room to have like its own underlying theme. And then I really want to do a coffee shop, which is kind of random, but I think about how much, this is like pre-pandemic world, how many times I went and I sat in either Starbucks or this coffee shop in my hometown that I loved, where if I just got tired of like being like in my office, I would just go sit with my laptop and crank away, and maybe have a friend meet me there and we would have like a work date. And I just love that vibe. And ever since then, I'm like, I really want to do my own coffee shop.
I'm down for coming to the coffee shop too.
Yeah, we love to, or I'd stay in the hotel if you're going to do
Yeah, almost any room. Another one, really great question about bedside table lamps. Okay, do they need to match or should they be different?
They don't need to match.
Do you think?
I'm biased because I don't like really anything to match. So I don't think that they have to.
I don't think anything needs to match anywhere. I think if it works, mix it up.
No matchy. Cool.
No.
Okay, so here's another good one. Where are you itching to go for inspiration now that we can get back out in the world again? Where's the first place you're going to go to get inspired? Tina, let's start with you.
Japan.
Ooh.
Oh, cool.
It's been on my list. We just haven't done it, and I was supposed to go. We didn't book any tickets, but it was our next place, so hopefully soon we'll get there.
I would say Cairo.
Ooh.
Because
Ooh.
it's literally been on my bucket list since I was in high school. And I'm very obsessed with like the beginnings of things, like understanding the histories of things. And I want to say Dakar. I was supposed to go last year. Thanks, coronavirus. You ruined that. I'm really actually looking forward to going to there. And I have to say, and this is someplace I've already been, was Istanbul. And I still feel inspired from that trip, from the
I love Istanbul.
to the food, to the market. Like everything was just like inspiration overload.
That's for sure.
Well, I hope
East meets West, literally.
Yeah.
Literally, yes.
Hopefully
Cool.
in the next year or so, you'll both have that opportunity to go to those places for inspiration.
Oh, thank you. I hope so.
Yeah. And then I think we'll do one more question. And that kind of relates, when you're there, how do you absorb it and how do you use it and turn it into your work? Does it kind of feel like osmosis? Take notes? Do you buy things? What's that feel like?
I get butterflies. Like literal butterflies in my belly whenever I see something that I love, or that I'm like, how did they do that? Or how did they even think to do that? Because I don't think my brain could have figured out a way to do that. And I know when I get that butterfly moment that I need to either take out my phone, take pictures, write notes, and always I'll come whenever I'm leaving or like recapping my night. I always go back and I'll try to jot down like, what was it that gave me that butterfly moment? Because in there is where my real inspiration is. And I'll come back and get my wheels turning.
I think similar. I try to look at everything before I start snapping pictures. And then I do get really excited, and it's like, can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm lucky enough to see this with my own eyes. Because, you see pictures of everywhere in the world, and it's when you see something in person, it's just so much more breathtaking than a photograph. But I will document it for my own, memory, because I have a bad memory. I can't remember things. So I take pictures of everything, and then I do journal at night. So I'll, sometimes make notes of like something that I saw, but I also buy stuff, little bowls, little things. I try not to buy too much stuff because I try to travel light. I try to only travel with a carry-on. I don't know how that's going to work in Japan because I'm going to have to go for a longer amount of time, but I try to, maybe it's like a notepad, maybe it's a little bowl, but I try to bring a couple things home.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow, this has been
great.
Yeah, we really appreciate your sharing your projects with us, and your spaces are so inspiring. We also want to say thank you to the D&D building for promoting this event, and we remind everybody that you can visit our corporate showrooms where you can see and purchase more finishing touches. Our products are available for purchase off the floor in all of our locations. Shout out to New York. We love you. Los Angeles, Dallas, and Atlanta. We want to wish all of you a great day. And thank you for being part of this discussion.
Thanks, Beth. Thanks, Tina. It was great.
Thank you, guys.
This is great.
Thanks, everyone.